sentences or write yes or choosing two different sentences. Okay, let's watch a video about teaching grammar, okay, and complete together, and we're going to finish quickly inshallah, don't worry. خلاص يعني we're gonna finish. And tell me when you can listen to the sound of the video, okay?
Okay, it's clear.
Okay.
Hey teacher, a series of grammar games, or as I'd like to call it, GG. I'll be sharing some grammar activities I've done with my students that I hope you and your students benefit from them too. This is my first episode of the GG series, so if this sounds like something you're interested in, subscribe. So without further ado, welcome to your first GG. Let's begin with an easy yet super fun game. This game is perfect to revise the present progressive, the past progressive, propositions, or any grammar rule you find applicable. So after you've explained the grammar lesson, you gotta make sure they use it well, right? So instead of the not very exciting Q&A way, try this. Put your lovely students in groups and ask each group to have a piece of paper. Tell them, hey beautiful students, I'm gonna show you a picture for 20 seconds. You and your team members have to remember what the people in this picture are doing. After the 20 seconds are over, you're allowed just then to start writing 6 sentences describing what you have seen using the present progressive on that piece of paper you have. Make sure in these 20 seconds, students are not cheating, writing the sentences while the picture is on. The point here is to let students try to remember as many actions, or in this case, verbs, as they can while applying the present progressive form in their heads. Also, not allowing them to write while the picture is on, adds a little excitement to the game. Now students will hop on their papers writing the sentences. And to make things more interesting to me, not to them, I ask them to write, for example, 3 sentences using singular subjects only and the other 3 using plural subjects, just to make sure they're using the helping verbs correctly. The team finishes first wins, but if they have some mistakes, then the win moves to the team with the least mistakes. So they read their sentences out loud, and together we try to correct the mistakes if there were any. You can use the same picture for the past progressive, therefore your question will be, what were these people doing yesterday, for example? You can also use the same picture to revise some propositions. It's either you provide them with a set of propositions to choose from, or let them choose what they remember from the lesson. Moving on to our second GG. This grammar activity is perfect to let the students differentiate between the modal verbs or revise the verbs that should be followed by 2 plus infinitive or gerund, or any other grammar lesson you find applicable. As you know, the meaning of some modal verbs or certain grammar structures can be tricky, especially in the negative forms. So I tried this activity with my students and they fully understood the lesson. After I've explained the different modals and their functions, I wrote some very short sentences using modals on a piece of paper and cut them into strips. I divided the students into 2 groups. I asked one student from team A to come and pick a strip. I told the students that he needs to act out the entire sentence. The student wanted to punch me in the face. The thing is, we usually play acting out games when we teach vocabulary, but I thought certain grammar words need to be acted out in order to be fully understood as well. So I wrote all of the modal verbs we studied in that lesson on the board, and I told them each sentence contains one of them. Your job is to act that sentence to your team without pointing at the word and tell them which modal you got. If the level is not that advanced, we agree on a certain hand gesture. For example, this gesture for can, this one for must, for example, this one for should, and so on. This is how it went. The student who wanted to punch me in the face picked a strip. The sentence he got was, he has to clean. I told them you have 30 seconds to act and guess the sentence. So the student started acting. Pronoun he wasn't difficult to act. He pointed at one of his male classmates. Then he did this with his hands to act has to. But his team was like, have to. He tried to act that, no, the subject is he, so. And eventually, one student shouted, has to. And the word clean was pretty easy to be acted out, and bingo. As you have seen, we're not only revising grammar, but also practicing spoken grammar, structure, subject-verb agreement, and for sure, some vocabulary. If you want a copy of this document, feel free to download it. Link is in the description below. The last GG is perfect to revise any tense in English or any grammar lesson you find applicable. After teaching the intended tense, let's say simple past, draw a box on the board and ask the students to name some verbs. Choose at least 8 verbs. Tell the students that you're going to introduce an imaginary friend and give that imaginary friend a name and maybe draw a stick figure of it on the board too. I'd love to tease my students a little bit. So I tell them that you can't meet my friend unless you guess her name. Her name starts with letter C. So students are like, Cindy, no. Sandra, no. Ciara, no. Cat, no. You give up? Yeah. Her name is Coffee. What? Miss? No one is called Coffee. And I'm like, that's not true. That's offensive. I'd like you to meet Miss Coffee. And then I draw her on the board. So after I do this, I feel students get more excited to see what's next, you know? So on the board, we got the 8 verbs. Our grammar lesson was about the simple past tense. And we have Miss Coffee. I divide the students into groups and I ask them to create a short story about Miss Coffee using all of the verbs on the board. And it should be in the past tense or the tense you're currently teaching. I like the activities where students can get creative, like this one. But if you're doing this with beginners, then instead of a story, they might write simple sentences about Miss Coffee using the verbs on the board. I mean, as I mentioned in the beginning of my video, you can adjust the level of the game to the level of your students. However, with advanced students, I ask them to write a short story, but following a certain theme. So for example, write a sad short story about Miss Coffee, or write a scary short story about Miss Coffee. Then after they're all done with their stories or sentences, we hear them up together and I try to move their attention to how they use the past tense verbs and correct them if they got any errors. That's pretty it. If you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe, so you don't.
So, did you like the video?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so how many techniques did she use?
3.
Can you tell me? 3.
3.
Okay, 3 or more?
3.
Okay, what are they?
Number 1 is the group. About each group has a piece of paper, and each group write a sentence about a tense, like present progressive or.
Great. Okay,
Yes.
what else? And how many language skills did she apply or use? Did she only use reading, writing, listening, or how many kinds of skills did she use with her learners? How many language skills have you noticed?
Writing, I think.
I
She
think
asked
all
you-
of them. All of them.
Yeah, great, Hanan. She asked you. She divides her class into groups. They choose some verbs. They write some examples. They read the examples so the others listen to them. And of course, they practice speaking. And so this is very important when you teach grammar. Our big problem was that we teach grammar isolated. We only give them examples and they drill the examples. This is the traditional way. But here, if you notice, and as Hanan did in with the STEAM schools in her previous training, she said she gave them cards. They put the words in order, and after that, it's they played a game and stand in rows to say the sentences. The other learners listen to them, to their friends, and try to give them feedback if they correct or wrong. So it's important when we teach grammar not to teach it isolated from the other skills, but try to teach grammar with listening, reading, speaking, and writing by asking them to write some sentences. After that, read the sentences, and of course, speaking. Maybe they can think in if they are higher level, to think of writing a short story of about 5 sentences or more. And with younger students or learners, they just can write some simple sentences using the tense you are using with them. So till now, we talked about songs, as Amani mentioned, telling stories, listening to some songs. As Mr. Ahmed said, TPR, acting some verbs, acting some action verbs. And of course, we talked about objects, using objects and realia inside the classroom. Hannah mentioned using cards or flashcards and playing games and races, of course. Maybe using some pictures on the board to teach grammar. Also a timeline to tell the sentence, is it present or past? And sometimes we can also use audio. If they are higher levels, they can listen to a short passage, and you can ask them to give you examples or tell you a sentence they listen to, and you start to explain the rule or write examples on the board and let your student think of the grammar rule. Okay, so is it okay till now?
Okay.
Okay, we're going to finish because I see people are leaving. So we are coming, inshallah, to the last part. I'm sorry for taking your time. I do appreciate your time and effort, my dear friends. And I hope you find something useful today. So what have we learned till now? In brief.
ABCD model.
The ABCD model, great.
Bloom's taxonomy.
Bloom's taxonomy.
Teaching grammar.
Teaching grammar and choosing the suitable or the relevant action verbs to write a good or a well-prepared ABCD model. Also choose, we have talked about, choose the correct sentence in teaching grammar. Okay, and the flip book, sentences text. Okay, objects, using objects, and form tables. Tables also are very important if you are teaching grammar. You can draw tables on the board by writing the names of your students, the verbs they are doing. For example, you can write Ahmed, Hanan, Noha, Hana. Each one of you can distribute cards for each one of them. For example, Ahmed will have play, Noha will have listen, Hana will have sing, Amani will have read. And you can write Ahmed play, Hana sing, Noha read, and so on. And after that, you can ask your learners to form sentences from the table. For example, Ahmed is playing, Noha is listening, Hana is drawing, and so on. Okay, so forming tables also can be applicable if you are teaching grammar. Pictures or drawings, we have talked about it. Okay, contrasting sentences. For example, you can write 2 sentences in different tenses and ask your learners to form other examples as in the example on the board. So contrasting sentences can work well. Takeaway reflection. This is the last part or the end of our session. The first question is, if you were to go back to your school after today's session, what is one thing you learned today that you are eager to apply in your teaching context right away, and why? Can you tell me?
I can form objectives using the ABCD model.
Great. Why?
According to Bloom's taxonomy, because it's
Okay.
more specific, measurable, and achievable.
Excellent, Hanan. Who else? Is there anyone?
Also the objectives, but I had some trouble about assessing my sessions and how my students are doing. So I think it's because my objectives were not that specific. So it really makes a great difference.
Okay, so that's great. Okay, so what is one thing you learned today that was new for you? Is there anything new today?
ABCD model. I think that's for me. It's for me.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
What about
The
ABCD
games,
model.
the grammar games.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about teaching grammar? Is there anything new today?
Yes, there is. How can we make a story or a game by using a grammar?
Yeah.
Like Mrs. Coffee.
Yeah, Miss Coffee, great.
Yes, yes.
I
it's,
remember an
very amazing.
activity. Yeah, and I remember an activity here. It comes into my mind. Do you know run to the board activity? Do you know this activity?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I
For
thought
dictation.
it comes into my mind right now. I think after teaching the grammar rule, you or after your learners absorb the grammar rule, you can ask them, of course, by dividing them into groups, and you can ask each group of them to think of 2 or 3 sentences using the different pronouns, singular and the plural, maybe affirmative and negative, maybe affirmative, negative, and the questions. Each group of them to think of or to write 3 sentences, and choose one of them to run to the board. You will give them time and ask them to run to the board and write the 3 sentences. The first one who will write the 3 sentences on the board will be the winner, but with the least mistakes, of course. So run to the board activity. I think, inshallah, it will work with them, and I'll try it myself because if you after watching the video, I think the funny atmosphere will be great with the learners. Okay, so
Okay.
I thank you because you let me think of something new today. So what is the most important thing you learned today? You have mentioned, okay. So we come to the last point, the request of the day. Suggest a topic to prepare for the coming session. Okay, I want you now to think of something to prepare for the coming session, inshallah. So what's your request?
Could it be pronunciation? Pronunciation?
About pronunciation. Okay, you choose the difficult one. Okay, no problem at all. Okay, it will be inshallah. So dream big, work hard, stay focused, surround yourself with good people. And I really do appreciate and value your time and efforts, my dear great helpers, supporters, and mentors.
Thank you
for your time.
Thank
You
I wish you all
always
the best.
Thank you. You always make my day brighter. So I hope this makes you a little brighter too. Thank you very much for today, my dear friends. Have a nice time, and goodbye. Good night, my dear friends.
Good night.
Good night.
Sweet tight. Okay, so and goodbye for
I wish you happy dreams.
Thank you. Wish you all the best, my dear colleagues and friends. Thank you.